Hi, I'm Selena from Annie's Bookstop of Worcester, and I'm here with Tracey Livesay, who is a romance writer. And I'm going to let you tell people about what it is that you write.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Tracey Livesay, and I write contemporary interracial romance novels where I'd say strong, smart, driven women fall in love with powerful, passionate men. I've had people ask me about the interracial aspect of what I write, and that doesn't have anything to do with the conflict or the story at all. It's mainly just about the characters that you'll see. You know, representation matters, and people like to see themselves in their favorite genre. It's one of the reasons I started writing romance, and so it just lets people know that when they pick up a Tracey Livesay novel, the character is going to be interracial.
Okay. And what can readers expect from your latest novel? And I can see you've got a
Yeah, it's
book
pretty
right
big
there.
out there. That one comes out in June, and I think they can expect lots of emotion, lots of heart. There is humor, although I don't try to write funny. I think just some situations are humorous, and so I like to point those out. So definitely that. A lot of heat because I do tend to write on the sexy side. Um, and someone sort of who had an early read said that it had just the right amount of social commentary, and I really liked that. So I think you'll find all of that in American Royalty.
And I've heard that it may be a series. Is that correct? Or
It may be. I don't know
okay.
if that's been announced yet, but that that is the plan. We'll see how it goes. Yeah.
Okay. So, what do you think draws readers to these kinds of books?
You know, romance tends to get mocked by a lot of people, and I think that's people who don't write, who don't read it, who don't understand it. Romance gives hope, and it's true that they all end with happy ever afters, and that's sort of been this thing. Well, if they all end, what's the point? Well, it's the journey. Um, I think reading them shows people the light at the end of the tunnel, that there's hope, that no matter what your situation is or what your circumstances is, there is a chance for love, and not just, romantic love, but friendship love, familial love, family you're born into, as well as the family that you choose. I think our books are extremely optimistic and extremely hopeful. um, the best part of the genre is the happy ever after. And because our readers know that we are going to deliver that to them at the end, they're willing to go with us on amazing journeys. And we take them, you know, from books where it's just straight and fun and you're having a happy time, to books that are very emotional and sometimes really dark. But we can do that because our readers know at the end, you're going to end up in an optimistic place. You're going to feel happy. We're going to, you're going to close the cover on an uplifting feeling. And I think that's what people really love about our books.
I agree with you there. I think it's great. So, what was the inspiration for American Royalty? And what were the steps that you took to bring it from initial inspiration to a finished product?
So it is, this is a little long, but I will try my best. So I was working on another series, and I'd finished the last book in that contract, even though it wasn't the book for. I have more books in the series to do, and I am a planner, and I'm a person that likes to know sort of what's coming up next, several spaces ahead. And so I was talking to my agent about what it was that I was going to do. Sorry, got allergies mixed with everything. Um, But anyway, so I was talking about what my next step was going to be, and I wanted to know sort of what was going to happen after I finished the last two books in this other series. And so I wrote this sort of proposal of things that I had been thinking about, just giving ideas to my editors. And one of them had been Harry and Meghan. And so I followed them just like most people. And I remember watching their wedding and noticing, in addition to just all the royal stuff, um, the Hollywood contingent, sort of how they came out and showed up. And I just thought it was like, I know people who are royal followers may be watching and thinking, what's so special about these people from Hollywood? But to us, those of us who, you know, live in America and watch the stars, they kind of are our royalty. Like we watch them, we see what they do. And then they also have a way of interacting. Because I remember watching those people going into the wedding, and it'd be like an athlete was married to a movie star, or a tech person was married to an athlete. And it was like they also sort of, in their own way, only socialize with one another. And it felt like our own sort of version of royalty in terms of how we watch them and how we interact with them. And so I just had this idea, like maybe I could do a series that was in that vein, so that it would be a world, and that there would be different stories where the hero and heroine were people who were famous, and how they sort of interact with each other, and a little bit of how they would do that in this current climate with media and social media and press and all of that sort of stuff. So I'd written that as one of the ideas for a series. And then another part of that came from some years ago. Writers, like, we get these tidbits and we sort of stick them in pockets, like, and then you go back and wear a coat and you're like, oh, there's a $5 bill in there. Where did that come from? Like, we do that with ideas. And so I remembered years ago, maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, someone, Cardi B, had done a photo spread for, I believe it was Harper's Bazaar. And in it, she was wearing like a ball gown, and there was a picture where she was running away from a castle. And I think there was a shadow or something up in the window of the castle. And so someone had tweeted that picture and said, you know, where is my like rapper Prince romance? And my editor had seen that, and she retweeted it and tagged me and said, you know, I'm waiting, Tracey, like, where is it? And I laughed it off because I was in the middle of other books and series, but I guess that never left me. So when I had this idea, I thought, ooh, one of the stories could be a rapper and a royal. I didn't think of a prince at the time. I just thought a rapper and a royal. So I sent that to my agent, who sent it to my editor, and my editor apparently loved the idea and was like, stop what you're doing. I want this book right now. And I was like, oh, okay. And she's like, not the series. I want this book. I want this rapper royal book right now. And I was like, okay, well, we will make that happen. And that's how it happened.
Wow,
So.
that's great.
I mean, it really is. And the funny thing is, I went back to her, to my editor, and I said, do you remember that tweet? And she was like, what are you talking about? And that is not me, but I have a really good friend who could find a tweet from like 10 years ago if she needs to. And so she did her magic and found it. And then I sent that to my editor, and she was like, I don't even remember that. I cannot believe that. And I was like, sometimes that's how it happens. You know, it's how things happen.
So my next question is, what kind of research actually went into creating this book?
I didn't, you know, I do a lot of research, even for contemporary novels. I do a lot of research because I don't just like write in my backyard. So I want to make sure, whether it's the occupation, the location, I want to make sure I get the details right. That's really important to me. So I've always been a person that does a lot of research. And so I started out for this in the same vein. Like, I'm, not a rapper. I'm not in the music industry. That's not sort of my thing. But I have enough of a passing interest in it that it helped me sort of jump a few steps. But I did a lot of sort of reading of books about different rappers, about female rappers in the industry, which was really important to me. And that was interesting. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, a lot, to sort of understand that. And then once I think I understood sort of who my heroine was, who Duchess was, then I started focusing on the royals. And I, I think you can't help but take from the real life stuff, even if you don't intend to, like, because I've grown up knowing what I know. And so even though this is not them and this is a different world and it's a different monarchy, there are things that, just sort of come into what you're writing. But the same way, I did a lot of reading. I watched a lot of YouTube videos. I actually did a lot of research on buildings, on country homes, on the palaces. I bought books so I could understand. Specifically, there's a book that came out recently about Buckingham Palace, and so I bought that. I wanted to make sure I had the feel of what it was like to be inside that world. So a lot of research, and then I thought I was done. And so I had a really good friend of mine, author Sarah McLean, who writes historicals and I knew she knew sort of a lot of royal stuff. I had her sort of do an early read, and then I realized I had to do more research, because just things about sort of how they address each other, how he would address the queen, how he would address the queen was really important. I wasn't sure how that would be done. How the hero was addressed by other people. Like there's a scene when they're having a ball and they are announced, and sort of the order of how they are announced and what their titles will be. All of that was stuff that I had no idea about. And in the beginning, I had done my own sort of family tree so I could understand how each person on the royal side was related to the queen and how all of that worked out. And I can say that in the first draft, the hero was a duke. He wasn't a prince. And my editor was like, we need him to be a little bit closer. We need his, connection to be a bit closer to the queen. So that we need to make him a prince. Well, the rules about sort of who's named a prince and how close they have to be to the queen was stuff that I didn't know either. And so we had to make sure all of that made sense. It was like nothing I'd ever encountered. And I'm not sure if I'd known it was going to be that intensive. I don't know. I might have pushed her to another idea, because it was a lot.
I can imagine. So, what was your favorite research story? I mean, it doesn't have to be for this book, but for any of your books.
Just in general. It's really interesting. Okay, so there was a lot in this book, but I would say the thing that I think about the most that makes me laugh is on the book before this one, Like Lovers Do. My heroine is a doctor, and she is specifically, she wants to be an orthopedic surgeon. Well, she is an orthopedic surgeon. And so you can imagine that requires sort of a lot of research too. And I'm fortunate to know a lot of physicians, and they were really helpful. But what was funny is I immersed myself in that research so much, and down to lingo and sort of what they did on rounds, that a part of me felt like I knew stuff that I probably didn't. And I remember talking to the husband of one of my friends who's a physician, and I was just talking to him. He said something, and I was like, oh, I know. And I just started rambling off this stuff as if I were a physician too. And he just looked at me like, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I was like, I'm sorry. I know I'm not, yes, but it was just that it was so much that that information just had to get out. It was like, it's going to get out in the book, but also I'm going to have to tell people about it. And just, yeah, that was funny. He just looked at me like, I thought you were a writer. And I was like, I am, I'm sorry. I am. Yeah. Um, so yeah, so that's what I mean about, even though it's
Dr.
still
Tracey.
contemporary research. Yeah, that I do quite a bit of
Okay. So,
research.
I mean, you sort of answered this question in as far as the research goes, but what was the biggest challenge in writing and putting out American Royalty?
It really would be that extra layer of the royalty research. It was just unlike anything um, that I had encountered. Like even the medical, it was just extra stuff, and you would think you understood what the rule was, and then you'd find out, oh no, in this, in this specific case it's different, or that's the rule. They address them that way the first time they speak to them, but after that it's another address. It was just a lot. But and I guess, you know what, this makes sense too. It was also writing during a pandemic. I wrote this book in 2020, when we were still all quarantined, not vaccinated yet, still not sure what we were dealing with. My kids were at home. Um, and so that part of it was true. There's a lot of mental and emotional sort of, as you know, as everyone sort of experience, but just to sort of make myself sit down to write. And to be in this place. And I'll say that there were some days where writing sort of the really high emotion scenes were easier, because I was already kind of in that mindset, than writing something that was light or funny or even sexy. Really, some days I was just like, I'm gonna have to skip this scene because I don't have it. I don't have it today.
Not into sex today,
Not
right?
in, not yet. Not to, I have a headache. I can't write this scene today.
Yeah. Not today, dear.
Not today, dear.
Was
Yeah.
there any character that you particularly loved or hated the most in each book?
In this book, yes, this book, I love Duchess. I love her. I admire her. She's probably the closest to me on the page, just in terms of my voice. I think in the beginning, when you're writing, especially as a woman of color, you try to make your voice more mainstream, maybe, and maybe you don't always sort of put in the little pieces of you because you don't want to alienate people. You're trying to reach like the broadest base. And I think that used to be sort of, whether it was said outright or not. I think that's sort of the advice a lot of us got. But I think the more comfortable I've gotten, the more books I've published, um, the more I've sort of settled into, no, this is actually how I write. This is the things that interest me, and this is sort of what I'm going to put on the page. And because of it is the most recent book I've written, and also because of who she is, I think it's the closest to me on a page that I've written. So now it makes me sound really sort of, like I love myself, and that's not what I mean. I just mean like I I just, I would have loved to have had a character like her when I was reading romances at a younger age. I just would have, just to see her on a cover, and also to read her would have, that would have done a lot for me. And so I just
Mhm.
loved her. And I would say that the character that I hated the most hate is a strong word when it comes to, your characters because they're all sort of your babies. But I think Prince Julian is pretty, he's pretty despicable in this book. And let's just say he's not done. He's not done being despicable. That's what I'll say.
Okay. Sounds
Okay.
good.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it's great for you to have, it's kind of like a role model in a sense for younger, for younger people,
Yeah.
for younger Black women.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, not in the sense that I'm saying that they have to be like Danny, but I do think, as we said at the beginning, representation matters, and sort of
Right.
seeing yourself or someone who looks like you or who
Yeah,
maybe grew
exactly.
up with you is really important. And I think she does that in a lot of ways. She does. He does.
And
Yeah.
there aren't very many, there isn't very much representation.
No, I mean, and it's the thing is it's getting better. I mean,
Yes.
there's more. Um, but it's still it's not enough. And
And
it's not.
I think it's great
Yeah.
that you're doing this, it's wonderful. So anyway, so what else can we expect from you in the near future?
Well, I'm working on the next book. And you know, I guess I mean I should just say the next book is probably going to be the second book in this series. So I am working on that now. Um, and kind of excited about it. It's different. I've written series before. I tend to like writing series because I get into a world and I don't want to leave it. And I also grew up sort of reading those books where you have the one couple in the first book, and then like the heroine has a best friend, and so the next book is going to be her best friend. Like I grew up reading that, and so in some way I was like, well, that's how I'm going to write. It's been different. This is a different experience because it is a series. It is the second book, but it follows the same couple, and I have not done that before. That's been interesting trying to
That is
figure that out.
that is
So
definitely different. Yeah.
yes, that's very different. So that's what you can expect from me next is that one. And oh, I guess this is long term, but several years ago I participated in an anthology. There was a holiday anthology, and the proceeds went to charity. And so the rights to my novella reverted to me, and I wanted to publish that at the end of last year. It's a Christmas novella, and I just couldn't get to it. So I hope to be able to get that out at the end of this year. So though that's my plan for 2022.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I have a couple of questions for you about being a writer.
Okay.
What's your favorite part of being a writer on the whole writing and publishing process?
My favorite is the work I do, the character work that I do before I start writing. So I'm just learning my characters, figuring out, who they're going to be, how they're going to mesh. That's very exciting. And then my other favorite part is when I have finished my first draft. Those are my favorite parts because it's funny. I am writing, I guess this is my ninth book that I'm working on right now. And each book, at the beginning, I don't know how I'm going to do it. It's as if I've never written a book before. I feel like I can't possibly write this story. I don't know. The other ones must have happened by magic because I don't know how this is going to happen. And somewhere in that process of writing the first draft and revising it, the story comes together, and then the book happens. And it has happened every time. But I always have that feeling of I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. This can't be a story. How am I going to make a book out of this? And it's somehow it happens. I've come to accept that's just part of the process, and I just have to push through because a book will come out eventually. Yeah.
Okay. So what do you consider the most challenging part of the writing process?
That part, I probably shouldn't have jumped ahead of that, but that's the most challenging part.
Okay.
It's um the quote about sort of you can't revise an empty page, I mean, it has been attributed, I think, to Nora Roberts, but I'm not sure. It's been said so many times, but I think that's what's true with me. I like to write a fast draft because I need to have something there. It's like once I have it there, then I can shape it and mold it. And the revision is my favorite part, one of my favorite parts of the process. But it's that there's nothing there, that blank page. It's just so daunting. That's just the hardest part. So for me, it's just getting something on the page, getting a story, just getting stuff. And then I can sit back and go, oh, okay, this should be here. This is what I'm going to do. And then I can mold it into a story.
Okay. So what was your favorite adventure during your writing career?
Adventure. Ooh. I would say I don't know, the most fun I've had really is meeting other authors. You go to your first conference when you're not published, or I did, and you're nervous, and you're meeting people and you're friendly with people. But then you see, you would hear published authors, or I would hear published authors mention other authors. And these are like names I've seen on books that are in bookstores. These are authors I've read and looked up to. And they will say, that this other author, whose name I know and I'm like blown away, is like their good friend. And they will tell you how it's important to have writer friends on this journey, that it's solitary when you're doing it, but having people that you can talk to, that you can rely on, is really important. And it makes you want to get that right away. And I guess the thing that I learned, or what's been fun, was finding those people. I mean, it's just like sort of anything else. You can't really force it. Just because you like somebody, you guys have a good time, doesn't mean that they're going to be that person for you. It does take some time, and you know just time and meeting people and getting to know them and opening up, but then finding that core group of people that you can depend on. That's been, like, I think, one of my favorite parts. Yeah.
So
Parts of the journey.
what's the greatest lesson that you've learned so far in your writing career?
I think it's been believing in my voice, believing in your voice and your story. Um, I think uh, the advice to write broad, um, maybe it's a good advice in the beginning, but I think what draws us together is our specificity. And I think the stories or the little things that I put in a book that feel specific to me tend to be the things that people will say, "Oh my gosh, yes, I do that too." Or, "Oh my God, yes, that's so funny. I grew up with that." Or I know someone, or my friend did, or whatever. It's those small touches. And yet, um, if I was concerned about that, if I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't put this in because I'm trying to reach a broader audience, I wouldn't make that connection with readers. So it's just trusting my voice. We all um, see things in a different way, and I think being able to see something through someone else's eyes is it's an important sort of tool to tap. I think it makes us better people. And so romance allows us, when it allows us it allows people to inhabit someone else's shoes, to see life through their eyes and appreciate the differences, but realize in the end we are all way more similar than we are different.
Okay, so you kind of sort of answered it, but what piece of advice would you want to share with other writers?
I'm sorry, my allergies are acting up. Um, it would be to be true to your voice. Yeah, to who you are and your experiences and how you see the world and what it is that you want to say. The mechanics of good writing, that's this thing. I mean, that's what we all, should be or want to do. But on top of that, who you are as a writer, what excites you, what you want to say,
Mhm.
don't be afraid to put that on the page because it's going to reach people. It's going to reach people. And sometimes, maybe it's not reaching the broader audience that's more important. It's reaching your audience that's important. So,
Right. And are there any clubs, groups, or organizations that have helped you and that you would recommend to other writers?
yeah. I say that in a sad way. One of the first organizations I joined was Romance Writers of America, and I would not be published if it weren't for them. Um, Everything I know about the industry up to this point, I got from them. They put me in touch with the people who are the most important to me in this industry at the moment, and so um, it's really heartbreaking to see the state that the organization is in. And I think an organization like RWA is needed. I think romance authors, we need that advocacy. It's very important. And, just sort of like, just on little things like the the discussion that continues to pop up about whether or not it has to have a happy ending if it's a romance. I mean, it's like um, having a huge trade organization that can educate not only aspiring authors but the public on what we do is really important. It's going through pains right now, and it is not sort of the same vibrant organization it was for positively and negatively, because there were some negative things obviously about it, um, but it's still there. And so if there is an aspiring writer who has questions, who's looking for resources, um, it is still there. So definitely check them out. um, it was really sort of important to me, and I also think that um, with sort of the social media, the increase of it, you can find answers to sort of any question that you have. So if you have a question, just add the Romancelandia hashtag and someone will see it and answer your question or direct you to a resource that would be helpful.
Okay. I have questions now about you as a person. What
Okay.
is one thing that most people don't realize about you?
That I am actually quite shy. Most most people don't, and they probably would be like no or laugh, but I am. A lot of us writers are. A lot of us, writers were readers. I was a huge reader, so my head was always in a book growing up, and I just felt more comfortable there. um I am. Once I get to know people, then obviously I open up. But I'm pretty shy in the beginning, and so if anyone sees me anywhere and I'm standing against a wall or I'm quiet, I'm just shy. I'm not standoffish. I'm not mean. I'm just shy. But we start talking, I'll open up.
If I had
Definitely.
$1 for every author that's told
I
me
know.
that,
I
I'd be a
know. You
millionaire.
would think you would think a writers' conference would just be all of us like standing against the wall, just looking around at each other. Some are.
Really. So, what is or are your passions when you're not writing? And how do you make time for things, for the hobbies and things that you love?
Uh, um, Passion. Well, my family, obviously. Um, I like, well, like is not the right word. I need to do some sort of working out, physical activity. Um, I try to mix it up. So sometimes it's running, sometimes it's powerlifting, but actually that helps with stress. So that's a thing that I do. I love paper planning. I am one of those planner people. We are a little nutty, but again, it helps to relax me. And reading. Like I said, I grew up reading. I love reading so much, and the irony for me is that I don't read as much now that I'm writing. I don't have the time to read as much as I used to, but that's my oh yeah. I'm looking forward to vacation where I can just like have a few books and like tear through and just, you know, be giddy again. Not where I don't have to get them together. I know they're together. I'm just going to read and see how they do it. That's all.
So what does your writing space look like? And what do you need to have around you when you're writing or editing?
I have a home office, and this is my office, and I write at my desk. It has evolved into this. I used to um, write. I used to have a laptop, and I would just write wherever. I would, have writer friends, and I would go out to meet them or whatever. And the pandemic sort of curbed that. But what it also did was show me sort of what is best for me in my writing, and it is to be drafting at my desk on a desktop. Um, I use Scrivener, and then
Mhm.
once I have that first draft that I mentioned, then I convert it to Word, and then I work from Word on. But the thing about Scrivener is I don't have to focus on page one of a Word document. It just allows me to focus on one scene at a time, and that's less daunting in the beginning than opening up a Word document. And then um, I do have a little bit of a ritual in that I have a candle and I have a white noise machine. I know that was one of the other questions, like, what do I write to? Um, I need quiet, but not that quiet where I can start hearing like the little stuff, like the house shift or someone outside. So I do write to a white noise machine, and I like the waves crashing on the beach. That or a thunderstorm. Those are my two favorites. I light my candle and then I sit and I write. And I write in 30-minute sprint increments. So I'll write for 30 minutes, stretch, get something to drink, come back, do it again.
What kinds of drinks do you like to have with you? Is coffee, water?
Coffee and then water. So I try not to drink coffee all day. I tend to do a cup in the morning, a cup in the afternoon, and then everything else is water. Yeah.
Okay. Um, Now, do you have any favorite foods that you like to have with you when you're writing?
No, because I'm afraid, like the things I like are salty or sweet or chocolatey, and then they'll just get on my fingers, which would impact the keyboard. And so, literally, it's very,
Okay.
yeah.
Now, writers very often have furry or feathered or otherwise non-human companions that to help them through their work. Do you have any of those, and do they help you or hinder you?
Right. I do not. As you know, I have really bad allergies to everything. I'm a year-round allergy person, so I do not. I did not know I had allergies. Actually, it's just funny until I had children, because my kids my oldest had developed asthma, and then we took him to the doctor and found out he had asthma, and they said that those asthma and allergies go hand in hand. So then we had him tested for allergies, and his allergies were like off the roof, and they were like, well, this is genetic. So, and I was like, oh, well, they's like, maybe you should be tested. So then I was tested, and he got them from me. Um, so we're all pretty allergic. We actually, how we found out is we had a dog. We'd gotten a dog for my kids, and my son just, the wheezing, all of that stuff was really bad. So that is what sent us to the doctor. So We do not have pets. We had a friend who was gracious enough to take our dog, but poor Jake. But Jake is happy now. But yeah, so we don't. We are all just too much.
Times like that you might want to get a turtle or something.
So yeah, something just yeah, you know. So
Aw, that's too
yeah,
bad.
yeah.
So I have two last questions for you.
Okay.
One is where can people find your work aside from Annie's Bookstop of Worcester? And
Yes,
always,
please.
I always, I always give a plug here for
Yeah.
Annie's. And you can get all of Tracey's books from Annie's if you call us at 508-796-5613, or you can email us at orders@anniesbooksworcester.com, and we'll be able to get Tracey's books for you. And where else can you get people
Okay,
get
so
your books?
I'm going to join, add my voice that if you are watching this and you are seeing me and you would like to read one of my books, please order from Annie's. That would be best. Just get it there. If for some reason you cannot, I am in, I just believe Barnes and Noble, obviously on Amazon. I think American Royalty is going to be in most stores too. So, but that's in June. But you can pre-order. You can pre-order. So go ahead and pre-order that way. I do not sell my books on my website or anything like that. So, but yeah, just go to your independent, go to Annie's, and then go to maybe your independent local bookstore and have them order it. It's the best way.
Okay. And last question is, how can we follow your work and share your awesomeness?
Okay, well, I do have a website, so that is traceylivesay.com. It's really easy. You can go there. You can sign up for my newsletter. I send it monthly, and that's where you're probably going to find out first about anything that's happening, anything that's going on. So I would say that if you are a social media person, the best place to find me is Instagram. I'm tracy.livesay on Instagram. I am on Twitter, but I am not on there a lot. I am on Facebook. I have an author's page, Tracey Livesay Author. I have a readers group, the Liveleys, Livelies, romance reader group. I'm not on any of those as much either. Instagram is where I, direct most of my attention. So if you actually want to interact with me, that is probably the best place. But I check everything. I do respond to email. So, have any questions, please hit me up.
That's great. Well, thank you very much for joining me, Tracey. I really enjoyed our conversation. And if you ever get to the Boston or Worcester area, we'd love to have you come to our store.
Oh, I would love to. I will definitely let you know.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you. And good luck with American Royalty. I know it's coming out in June, but so you'll still have quite a ways to go. And good luck with all the publicity.
Thank you. I would need it. Thank you.
And thank you again. Bye.
Bye, guys.